What's up, beautiful people? It's your girl Tanisha coming to you again. How are you doing? Good. I'm glad. I really am. Listen, y'all, I just got an email in my email that told me that my PPP loan was 100% forgiven. So what does that mean? That means that during the pandemic, I applied for the PPP loan among some other stuff, and I was granted it. I was granted the first draw and the second draw, right? So we're now in the forgiveness period for the first draw. So I applied through my lender, and I got my little email today saying that quite a few $1,000s that I got in the form of a PPP loan do not have to be paid back. Hallelujah. Insert shout, cheer, praise right there, right? So then after I posted that on my Instagram, I got a few people who were like, Tanisha, how do I get forgiveness? Well, I'm going to try and walk you through some steps on how to make sure that your loan is forgivable. So the Payroll Protection Program, or whatever the PPP stands for, is basically it's for those business owners to have money and funds so they did not have to either fire employees, or if you're the only individual in there, that you were at least able to sustain yourself as a means of the business paying you. So make a long story short, I have an LLC and I've had it since 2018. So when the pandemic hit, I was in business for like 2 years by that time. So it shifted a lot of things, but I had heard a prophetic word from a person that I followed at that point in time, and she was like, apply for everything. And this was like at the very beginning of the pandemic. So me hearing the voice of God, I said, I'm getting ready to apply for everything. So I applied for PPP. So with the Paycheck Protection Program, that's really what it's called. You can only spend the money on certain things. So what I suggest, and let me just say how God is so good. When all this stuff started happening, like before I used to be a makeup artist and a hairstylist, one of my clients who had then moved to banking kind of called me out of nowhere and just broke the whole thing down to me and told me all of what I needed to do, right? So what she told me to do was to get a separate business checking account. Like even if you already have one already, get a separate one, and that's where the PPP funds will be housed, right? So you can only spend the money on certain things. People feel like, oh, I can spend it on whatever I want to. No, you cannot. You can spend it on payroll. You can spend it on rent. You can spend it on for your business. You can spend it on utilities for your business. You can spend it on operation expenditures, like software, cloud computing, things of that nature. You can spend it on property damage costs related to your business, supplier costs, and worker protection expenditures. So any personal protection equipment or property improvements to remain COVID compliant. So if you were like in a medical practice, if you had to spend a lot of money on like your personal protection equipment and stuff like that. So there's certain things, and then that's it. Like you can't go out here and go on a vacation. You can't go out here and get your body done. You can't go out here and get your teeth done. Like those are not the kind of expenditures that you can pay for the PPP if you want it to be 100% forgivable. Now, if you want that debt and have to be required to pay it back, then do what you will. Me, I knew I don't want to pay back that large a sum of money. So I followed the steps very closely. So in this account, I would write my rent check. Like say for instance, I work from home. So a half of my rent, I paid it out of the PPP every month for that period. So my rent is what, $1,500? So $750 I paid from the PPP, and then the rest of it I paid by way of my other stuff that I got going on. So, and then I paid myself. I wrote myself a check from that account as payroll, and I put payroll in the memo section, right? You have to indicate that it is payroll, but it was written to myself. So I wrote a check from my business account where the PPP funds were, and I went and deposited it in my personal account. And then on some months, I would just transfer from my business account to my personal account, but I would specifically indicate in the notation, so it shows up on the bank statement, that it was, for payroll. And when it was for rent, I made sure that it showed up on the statement that it said for rent, right? So lo and behold, that money dwindled down to where now that money is no longer in that business checking account, right? But I have paid myself payroll. I have been paying my rent, and I keep all of my bank statements, and they're online anyway. If you have a business checking account, your statement should be online. So anyway, so the time came for me to apply for forgiveness. So I knew I had only spent that money on things that were in this list. So my company, my lender who reached out to me, they were like, hey, the time for forgiveness has come. If you want forgiveness, go ahead and apply for it. And this is how you apply for it. So I applied for it. And initially they didn't need any documentation. But this is where being a good entrepreneur comes in. Always keep your documentation. Always keep your bank statements. I have like receipts from years ago. Just really try to keep your paperwork in an organized spot, preferably a file cabinet. Some people don't believe in file cabinets. They put it all online. I like having a paper copy. That's just me. Okay. But anyway, so they said apply for forgiveness. They sent it off to the SBA. The SBA was like, well, we need some documentation. For the 5 months that she spent that PPP money, we need to see where it went. So I politely sent them 5 months worth of business checking bank statements. Statements. And so then my lender sent it off to the SBA. The SBA looked at it. The SBA said, yep, she did what she was supposed to do. So now all those multi-thousands of dollars are forgivable. I don't have to pay them back. And it's awesome. I'm so excited about not having to pay that back. So the takeaways from this video is really what I want you to know. That if you're going to do the PPP, make sure that you find out what you can spend it on. You can't just spend it on everything and anything. So again, payroll, mortgage interest, rent, utilities, operation expenditures, property damage costs, supplier costs, and worker protection expenditures. And even with the payroll, you can't spend it all on payroll. Like if you get, ultimately when you apply for the PPP, it's based upon how much you spend out in payroll monthly anyway. So like say for instance, if you make $4,000 a month, the calculation that they're going to use is times, I think either 2.5 or 3.5. And then the calculation has changed. That's the reason why I'm like, the first time they did it times 2.5, and then that was the amount that you were allotted. The next time they said, well, take your adjusted gross income, divide it by 12, and then multiply that by 3.5 or something like that. And then you'll know how much you're eligible for in the way of PPP. So the calculation kind of has changed. But either way it goes, in order for it to be forgivable, that's really what this video is about. You need to make sure you're spending no more than 60% of it on your payroll, okay? So if $10,000 is what you're awarded, make sure that you do not spend more than $6,000 towards payroll. The other $4,000, you can use that towards rent or any of those other things I said, utilities for your business, property damage, supplier costs, worker protection, expenditures, ... So I hope this has helped you slightly on how to get your PPP to be 100% forgivable. If you have any questions, jump down in my inbox or below, wherever. DM me on Instagram and I will try to answer your questions as best as I possibly can. And if I can't, I will direct you in a direction that can. I just want to jump on and help my fellow entrepreneurs and business owners. If you like this, please give it a thumb up. Let me know how I've helped you. And yeah, so till next time, love you.